Spring season is in full blast, and we here at ViniiTube are dedicated to giving you the best in the world of anime. So what's hot and buzzing in the jam-packed season? Without further ado, here are my picks for the top spring 2023 anime. I'm going to be featuring new anime here, so in case you still haven't chosen a show to pick up, this list might help you set your sights on something. I Got a Cheat Skill in Another World makes a nice opening, don't you think? It's a tale as old as time. An isekai somehow tries to make a splash by attaching itself to a unique gimmick, promising something that you've never seen before, or something you haven't seen as much of. I've Got a Cheat Skill attempts to do that with how it marketed itself as a pseudo-isekai. While it has all the makings of an isekai, it tries to build its premise around having the isekai powers and settings applied in the real world. Well, as for the actual result, I think it's middle of the pack, and that's why it's only at number 10, in spite of me generally enjoying it for what it is. I do think some parts and developments were pretty rushed, but if you're already a fan of these kinds of isekai, then it shouldn't be anything new to you. You can just sit back and let the show take its course. It's not exactly a groundbreaking show in spite of the seemingly unique premise, but as popcorn entertainment, it does do its job pretty well. It's cool, and a lot of times, that's just what one needs when picking up an anime to watch. At number 9 we have My Home Hero. My Home Hero, I feel, is a show that does draw a lot of interest. It's got a good premise, and from the get-go, it quickly reels you in with a conflict that you can't seem to wait to develop. And if you're talking about the premise and how they handled it, I think that My Home Hero does a pretty decent job at it. Like the previous entry, it's not exactly a groundbreaking addition to the series, but if you're looking for something to this effect to watch, a whole crime and suspense story, then this could be an enjoyable watch for you. My Home Hero sits here in the 9th spot mainly because the production values need some work. Maybe we're just spoiled with awesome art and animation these days, but for a story that draws as much intrigue as My Home Hero, it deserves some more love and care in its adaptation. That doesn't make or break the show, however, and I still have it as one of my 10 favourites from this season. The number 8 spot belongs to My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999.
丸、ちょっと離席する。すぐ戻る。
Now, here's a show that's absent from my pre-season previews. I do think that I have overlooked this show a bit, you know, but upon checking it out, I think it's a fun show to watch. At first glance, it's easy if you're a veteran watcher to be reminded of the show Recovery of an MMO Junkie, or something like Wotakoi, since that's more popular. Regardless, there's always a spot in my heart for rom-coms like these that deal with the aspect of social interactions from the perspective of a huge gamer or geek. This show does have a little bit of everything that you'd want from a rom-com. Lovable characters that have good chemistry with one another, an ample dose of comedy, and some surprisingly important lessons to be learned. Some people have compared it to Horimiya, and I can really see where they're coming from. I didn't talk about the show in my previews before, but if you're looking for a light-hearted rom-com to watch this season, then make sure to check this one out. Gamer or not, you'll definitely find something to enjoy in it. Dead Mount Death Play is up next.
僕はもう逃げない。ここから先は僕と君とで死神ごっこ、殺し合いだ。
On the other hand, I talked plenty about this show in my previews. Being a fan of Devil is a Part-Timer, I've always been up for a sort of retread in that direction. Only this time, a much darker take in terms of atmosphere with a slightly more pronounced dash on realism. I really love the source material, and I think that the anime did a good job at translating that experience of reading the source material into animated form. I gotta say that the fight scenes impressed me, and they do well in pulling someone in as early as the first episode. So far, it's been great at creating intrigue, creating that kind of drama that keeps you watching as it pulls cliffhanger after cliffhanger on you. I mean, yeah, at times it does try to take things in a more light-hearted direction, a decision that might not sit well to those who really came for the dark atmosphere, but overall, it's still an enjoyable watch. It's one that I'll recommend this season, and unless you're someone who absolutely dislikes a show with a grim atmosphere, then this is one that you're going to want to check out. Insomniac's After School comes in the 6th slot on the list. Now, if you haven't watched Insomniac's After School, the main keyword I can give you is relaxing. There's just something really warm and cozy about this slice of life anime, which feels almost ironic considering the premise. Your mileage may vary, but warm and relaxing are things that you also don't typically associate with the embrace of the night, but those are what accurately describe the dialogue and relationship between our main leads here. Insomniac's After School is overall a simple story, a tale of two leads bonding over their shared dilemma and growing with each other's help. It's a romance where the main characters are very likable, and that, I think, is one of the most important elements of a character-based work like this. There's not a lot of convoluted love triangles or melodrama for this show, and the art just elevates the appeal of the title so much. This is my pick if you prefer a more sweet and relaxing romance as compared to the comedic hijinks of Yamada-kun, which I discussed not too long ago.
中身の心臓の音が一番いい。
And if you're liking the stuff you've seen so far, how about spending a few seconds in hitting that like button up there? It helps the channel and this video a lot, and I'd really appreciate your contribution in letting the channel grow. Thanks a bunch. Let's get back to the list. Next up is Mashle. One Punch Man has found a new successor, it would seem, and it takes place in a magic academy. That's a pretty simple premise, and it speaks volumes about the show. This is basically the plot. Straightforward as it is, but that doesn't make it any less entertaining. There's something really charming about these satirical, overpowered protagonist shows that make them so lovable, despite seeing them in many permutations at this point. A very notable one, which is Misfit of Demon King Academy. On the contrary, Mashle goes all in on the gags and comedic aspects of it, letting it take the front and center role of it all in contrast to Misfit, and it works to its favor. For someone raring to see something with the same vibes as One Punch Man, Mashle comes in as a pleasant treat. It's pretty evident that the show also takes some inspiration and cues from Black Clover and Harry Potter, and I think that added a bit to the enjoyment of it all. Who doesn't love an underdog story getting flipped on its heels by starring a protagonist who's actually secret OP after all?
まさか今の一瞬で崖を降りて瓶を拾って戻ってきたのか。
Wrapping up our pre-top 3 is Skip to Loafer.
岩倉光美15歳。今日から東京の高校生です。
And here's something very wholesome to wrap things up pretty nicely. Skip to Loafer is a show that in more ways can be relatable to the youth, especially in this bustling and ever-changing society that we live in. Moving out into a new adventure and being the proverbial fish out of water does bring forth a lot of challenges, and I'm sure that a lot of us find ourselves in the shoes of Mitsumi Iwakura. Skip to Loafer overall is one of those charming school dramas you see every once in a while with characters that you can't help but love and an overall positive and welcoming tone. It takes things slowly, but never feels boring once you get the hang of the characters and the world they live in, and I myself find it a breath of fresh air. Especially considering how a lot of shows seem to try to craft up a very deep plot or a lot of forced darkness in order to catch the attention of the fans. Having a nice, relaxing and wholesome show like this is actually quite a lot of fun. A good partner for Insomniac's After School if you decided to pick up that one. Opening the top 3 is Heavenly Delusion. This is a show that I feel got overlooked by many during the pre-season. I haven't seen too much hype on it, and while I won't call this a niche show by any means, I think we can very well call this the sleeper hit of the season. Heavenly Delusion quickly places itself in the position to be compared to a show with a similar premise, Promised Neverland. In contrast to the horror emphasis of the latter, Heavenly Delusion seems to lean more towards the mystery survival aspects of the similar premise. Sure, it's got some controversial aspects, but with how good it is in terms of everything else like the dialogue and the world building, it's a show that I'd heartily recommend to most people up for some mature anime. It's certainly one of the more intriguing hits this season. In second place is Hell's Paradise. Hell's Paradise is a show that I did have high expectations for heading into the season, and I'm pleased to say that those expectations have been met. I've raved about the whole dark, serious adventure feel and the action, but with the anime adaptation, I've also really liked how they translated the main themes. That's largely helped by the very eye-catching visuals and sound direction. The characters also have a lot of interesting backstories, and their overall development would surely captivate any fan who took even the slightest liking to the plucky crew. The whole show is a great example of how atmosphere and and the character types go hand in hand to create an anime that will grab your attention with an iron grip. Of course, most people watch it for the action and adventure, but it's also got some interesting things to say about the idea of life and death, if you're to ask me. And strong, meaningful themes like that is the icing to the cake for me. Very, very fulfilling icing, I might add. Standing atop the rankings is none other than Oshinoko.
そして俺は俺の復讐劇を始める。
It's brilliant. These guys did it. I already had high hopes for the show and I knew it was going to be a massive hit, but to be this big of a hit, it kind of caught me off guard. I got to give some props to the genius play of making the first episode movie length and then quickly hooking people into the mystery with one hell of a cliffhanger. The mystery's awesome, but I do think that the characters also do such a great job in helping carry the show to make it the complete package. It's a show that caught quite a lot of anime-onlys off guard, and with its sudden dark turn and subsequent serious tone, it's definitely a show that people who previously haven't appreciated anime can learn to love. That's not to say that the show is completely grimdark. It balances the more light-hearted and staple moments with the serious social commentary bits really well, giving itself a chance to hook fans from various ends of the spectrum. It's too early to be crowning Oshinoko Anime of the Year, but it's a serious contender in that regard. I truly recommend this show if you haven't checked it out already.
せっかくだからめちゃくちゃやって帰るか。
And those are my picks for top 10 anime of spring 2023. Is my list looking like yours? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. In case you want to check out the other lists and videos, head on over to my channel and find something to your fancy. As usual, like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Looking forward to seeing you next time.